Next one up here, Robotaxi Market could be substantial as Tesla nears entry.
Capital markets analyst Jairam Nathan recently cut his price target to 180 from 195, keeps him neutral. Jairam, it's great to have you. Big debate this morning about whether or not this announcement on the 8th is aspirational and kind of the way the semi was, or actually material to their next round of product.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. I think it to a large extent depends on what they reveal. Like if it is just going to be like a shell, just as the GM's Cruise origin, might not, we won't be that enthusiastic. But the robotaxi market could be could be pretty substantial if you look at the rideshare revenues today, or gross bookings, kind of 45 billion just in the US, and delivery, restaurant delivery could be under $100 billion in the US alone. So we are talking big numbers here, and to the extent how much of that kind of market goes to Tesla by itself depends on what the model is, right? Like, would Tesla be having its own network, or will it depend on networks like Uber or Lyft? And how much of the assets are they going to be owning? So of course, like if you look at Uber's EBITDA margins, about 11-12% of revenue, it could be much higher for Tesla, given that it's autonomous, but also given how much if they're owning the fleet and the network as well. Of course, if they own the fleet, capital intensity will be higher. So it's
So this bull case narrative that AI and robo-taxis are going so well, they don't need to get in the weeds of trying to create a lower cost model than, say, BYD.
It makes sense. If you want my opinion, would I rather see Tesla sell the vehicles to Uber and Lyft and others, right? Or would I rather see Tesla actually be the Uber and Lyfts of the future, but with robotaxi? The answer is I would rather have them be the capital-intensive approach. I would much rather have them own their own fleet, because I just don't think I don't think you could compete with Tesla. I just don't think so. I think it's going to be impossible when it comes to robotaxi fleet to compete with Tesla, because let's imagine you're in Uber or Lyft, right? Okay, now you need to buy cars from somebody that are going to compete with Tesla. Well, you're going to have to pay a margin on that, right? Like, those companies aren't going to sell you. Let's say there's somebody that can compete with Tesla and make these robo-taxis just as good of a quality and make it just as great of a product with self-driving and everything for the same price as Tesla, right? Well, the difference is that company then is going to go charge Uber or Lyft or whoever, right, a premium, because they got to make their margin. Tesla doesn't have to worry about that because they produce all their vehicles in-house. So there's no worry about, let's try to make margin on this, right? And then there's also the idea of essentially people being able to turn their current Teslas into the robotaxi fleet and be able to have those vehicles out driving people around at a given time. So let's say, like, I'm not using my car, 2 a.m. to 8 a.m. So I'm going to have my car go drive people around, and have it get down to 25% energy. Okay, boom, your car can go do that, and then it comes back home, it's ready for you to take it in the morning, you charge it up while you're at work or whatever. There's so many possibilities when it comes to that. So, the possibilities are really endless. So Tesla's just insanely well positioned for that, but it's not like this is happening tomorrow. It's not like tomorrow you're just going to see robo-taxis everywhere and Tesla's making all this money from that. It's going to be over a long period of time, and they'll get more and more popular and more popular. And, no different than Uber. It wasn't like everybody just woke up and started taking Ubers one day. It was like Uber's been growing as a company for a long time now at this point in time. And now it's like this huge, big household name.
Is that something you're willing to bet on?
Yeah, so, I think the Model 2 or the lower cost model is, I don't think has a huge impact in the US, given that segment. If you look at the small cars, small CUV, it's about 16-18% of the market. But I think it is very important outside the US. But at the same time,
this is another thing that, you want to know why Tesla's doing Tesla Insurance, and, they're building out all these other businesses, right? The supercharger fleet. The other reason is, think about this logically, right? Why, if let's say you're Uber, Lyft, or whoever, and you got somebody insuring this fleet of robo-taxis. Now they're going to make a margin on that, right? 10, 20%, whatever. They're not going to sell you that car insurance for whatever it costs. No, they want to make a profit. Tesla, since they're going to have their own insurance in-house, and that's going to be built out likely over this next 5-10 years, probably in a substantial way, right? As that builds out, Tesla's going to be able to insure their own robo-taxi fleet. And then if there's ever a problem, they're going to be the ones that can take the brunt of that. But at the end of the day, they don't have to pay that margin that, somebody else would have to pay. So when you look at all this stuff that Tesla's doing in-house, also, if you want to charge all the vehicles, where are you going to charge all those vehicles at? Probably Tesla superchargers, right? Tesla's going to make a margin on that for all the other robo-taxis charging at likely Tesla's chargers. And if you don't do that, then you got to build out your own supercharger fleet. I mean, we've seen how that's worked out. That's why all the big auto companies are all partnering with Tesla now. So that's like, yeah.
The competitive intensity is much higher, especially with companies like BYD, and are extremely cost competitive. Especially, I think you need to have a good LFP sourcing, battery sourcing, and China is much ahead of the rest of the world in that regard.
All right. Next up here. So I saw this when I was on the Strip, by the way. This was one of those like self-driving vehicles, and I just thought it was so silly, right? All these cameras, all this ridiculousness on top, and here I am with Tesla. I now got the full FSD for a month trying that out, because before that I've only had the autopilot, and I gotta say the experience has been pretty darn good. It's made me more bullish on Tesla overall. Is it as good as a human driver? No. And when I say that, it's not that it necessarily puts you in unsafe situations. If anything, it does the opposite of that. It's that it's too timid. It's too scared, right? And by the way, I think these cranes have been up here for like 10 to 20 years now. Did you guys know that? It's just a completely random thing. Literally, I think they've been up there for 10 or 20 years. You could research that. Venetian cranes up. I think they've been up there for like 15, 20 years or something insane. But in terms of Tesla, here's a little video for you guys. I filmed this one the other day. This was actually probably my second or third time using it. And, it's just fascinating to see all the cars moving, all the lights and whatnot. And, how all this technology works. It's unbelievable. And I take it back to that photo I showed you, that other vehicle, right? Tesla's able to accomplish this with just the cameras on the car, right? They're able to accomplish this with just the sensors, the cameras on the car, and the AI. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable what Tesla can do. And,
Come on, don't drive like a grandma.
Yeah, so this, I had it on just the normal mode. I have turned it up to assertive, but I think there's still they need to be even more assertive than kind of what the car is right now. But basically, you just type in, wherever you want to go.
Yeah.
I was going to this taco place at this moment. So you type in wherever you want to go, right? And then it'll take you there. Like, it's literally that. It's that. And you hit that button. You hit this button right here. Boom. And that's it. Now, you do have to touch the steering wheel every once in a while. It seems like it varies, though. Sometimes it seems like I got to touch the steering wheel every 10 to 20 seconds. But then we were messing around the highway, testing it out, a friend and me, right? And we found that we didn't have to touch it for it was like over a minute. So I'm like, that's weird. Like, I don't know. And also when it's turning a lot, I've also noticed you don't have to touch it. So, and my friend was like, why, why, that's dumb that they do that. And I think it's something for the regulators. Because I don't think the regulators are scared, and what happens if this happens. I think it's also for probably Tesla liability, that they don't want to be full FSD yet in terms of taking all onus off of them. Because if somebody gets in an accident or something, they're going to try to sue Tesla. But now, since they say, you got to keep your eyes on the road, you're responsible for this, it's a whole different situation, right? But yeah, it's freaky to just see the steering wheel turning wherever you want to turn and whatnot, right? Now, somebody told me you can have it park in a parking spot. I tried it out. Maybe I did it wrong, and not for this particular time, for another time today. Didn't work out that way. So, I don't know. But yeah, there were some people in my private stock group that were telling me that you can have it actually park in a spot. But this just kind of took us to the plaza right where the taco place was at, and then just kind of left us there. And it's kind of okay, take it from here. Now, this is genius. I love this. This is such a Tesla thing to do. Basically, when you disable like that, this little message pops up. And if you want to, you can send feedback by hitting the little microphone button. I do that, I would say 90% of the time. And I'll just say, oh, I wasn't moving fast enough, or, I wasn't comfortable with it handling that situation, or I'll, just give some sort of feedback. Now, I don't know if they have an AI reading what I'm saying, and then they're like compiling everything together, because I'm telling you, I'm not the only person that's doing that. Some of you guys watching this video, you might do that as well, right? There's probably getting tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of these voice messages a day, right? A day. Because think about how many Teslas are on the road, how many Teslas have, full FSD. I mean, that's a lot of people sending a lot of audio messages. Some people probably don't send it. They probably just disable and don't care. But I'm telling you, there's a lot of people that do. And then you might do a few each time you drive. And so I don't think they have a human listen to it. It's got to be some sort of AI voice reading everything and then collecting data and understanding, it was having trouble merging, or it was taking a corner not human enough, right? It was taking it too timid, or whatever the situation is. That's what I believe is probably going on there. And then from my understanding, the AI is also basically recording what was going on in the car, the cameras, the sensors, and compiling all of that, so it does an even better and better job in the future. And so that's where this gets into a big AI program as well. It's way bigger than just understanding like those cameras and those sensors on that car I showed you earlier, right? This is way bigger than just some cameras and sensors on top. This is AI understanding exactly what to do in every situation. And that's where Tesla's going over the next few years. Is it doesn't matter what the situation is, it can handle it just as good, if not better, than a human driver, right? So yeah, overall, since I've been experiencing this, it's made me more bullish on Tesla than less bullish, because I've never really experienced FSD like this. And I understand they've made some big leaps and bounds recently with this 12.3. So I can't speak to the progress that's been made over the past year or two, but I've heard from a lot of people it's big progress. So is it perfect? Is this ready to be a robo-taxi fleet right now? The answer is no. Can I see it getting there very rapidly? Yes. With this stage I'm at, because the main issue I'm seeing is not an issue of safety. It's not an issue of not knowing what to do. The main issue I'm seeing is not driving human enough, is being too timid in situations. Not understanding like, hey, let's pull up here a little bit faster than that. Like, why do we need to stop back here, then proceed forward? It might sound bad, but it's driving too safe. It's like, I would say it's like when you're like 16 and you're going to go get your license and you're driving with the one who's grading you in the car. And you're like literally trying to be as perfect as you possibly can and driving as timid and slow as you possibly can. And people are like what okay. That's how this car is driving. And that's what my friend was saying, as well. It's like, get going. Like you're just driving too slow. So, but anyways, more bullish on Tesla than ever. This is completely random. And this is probably the only bad news I have for you guys, maybe. So what you're looking at here is the strategic oil reserves that we have here in the United States of America. And it's way down there, right? We're down to levels pretty much that you saw back in the 1980s. Now, this is very troubling because oil's already running a lot. We're about to go in, oil's going to start pricing for summer over the next few months. And so this isn't a good situation if the United States, if we decide to start filling back up the strategic oil reserves, right? In a time period when, let's say, oil's already going up and maybe we have more geopolitical conflicts that could cause a situation where oil price goes up considerably this summer, which can then cause more inflation, which then leads the Fed to stay higher for longer, which could end up leaning on the economy and eventually causing a bad recession, right? Eventually, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months from now. So this is, I don't like this situation. I would have loved to see us get back up to these sorts of levels of, let's say, 500,000 or so. I would have loved to see us do that over the past 6 months. Like, you look at where oil price has been over the past 6-9 months, like, why not have done it then? Wintertime, fall time, that's usually a good time if you're going to do something like that. And we're holding out, and it could be for political reasons, right? But I can tell you, it's much more detrimental when we got an election in November, if you're the ones in office, right, it's much more detrimental to you, and you played yourself in the end if you wait. Because if you wait and then you start trying to fill this up back, let's call it this summer, when oil prices all of a sudden go into 100 plus, and then word gets out around this, I mean, oil's going to 110, 120, 130 in that situation. And oh boy, you want to talk about being, have people start paying $5, $6, $7 a gallon right before the election. Whew, you stand no chance in that situation. So I don't know, man. I think they've made some pretty bad mistakes in regards to that. We'll see where that shakes out. It's one of the few bad news I have for you guys here today. Okay. Now, okay. So I've spoken to salespeople at Toll Brothers and Pulte Homes in the past 2 weeks. Okay. Now, keep in mind, these sales folks I've spoken to in the last 2 weeks, this is Las Vegas. Okay. So I don't want to speak for the rest of the country. I don't know what exactly is going on in Oklahoma right now, or what's going on in Mississippi, or what's going on in Seattle or San Francisco, okay? I'm just speaking about what's going on in Vegas, real estate, new homes, okay? Toll Brothers and Pulte specific, two giants out here, okay? Toll Brothers, demand is insane still for new homes. And you might think, how is demand for new homes insane with interest rates up here and the type of prices they're charging for these new homes? It just is. It just is. And the demand, even for this new community I was looking at, right? And I kind of felt the guy out. He actually, this sales guy, the sales manager down there, it's crazy story. He used to be a paper trader for Goldman Sachs. And when I say paper trader, I'm talking about back in the day on the commodities exchange when they used to be trading back and forth pieces of paper, like you'd watch in a 1980s or 1990s Wall Street type movie, right? Before everything was electronic and everything like that. They used to write it down on paper. So he used to do that back in the day, then got into home sales after Goldman Sachs started letting a lot of those jobs kind of go to the wayside as we moved into obviously the tech revolution and all that and computers, right? And he actually got to have lunch with Warren Buffett when he was in his 20s, just by chance. One guy, anyway, that was a crazy story. So the moral of the story is demand's insane. And I was interested in potentially a lot and building a home on, this potential piece of property. So they wanted $300,000 for this, just the lot. Okay. I'm not talking about the home. I'm just talking about the land for this particular lot. Okay. And, he calls me up and he's like, hey, you're my guy. I want to see if you want it. And I was kind of like caught off guard. I was actually busy working at that time. My mind was in stocks mode. And I was like, can you call me back in like an hour? Like, give me an hour to think about this. So about an hour goes by. He calls me back and sees. In that meantime, I went on and I saw they raised the home prices $25,000 just since the previous week. And so I said, if we can just do for what you guys had last week, the $25,000, I'm very interested in doing it. And he said, no. I said, no? And so I said, okay, that's fine. I just won't do it. Out of the principle, because I'm like, $25,000 is it's not like it's a small amount of money. It's $25,000, right? So I was like, let me keep an eye on that. Let me see if that lot actually moves. Let's see if they really got the demand like that. It sold 2 days later. 2 days later. So they really got it like that. And I'm looking, and almost every lot they put out there is sold quick. Cool. Then that takes me to Pulte. So Pulte, talk to them. Pulte's now starting to try to get like Toll Brothers type pricing. It's insane. So Pulte wants insane lot premiums over there. Their home prices are insane. They want they were talking about $160,000 plus for our casita. For our less than 300 square feet. Less than 300 square feet. Casita? $160,000 plus? Go down to Home Depot and buy a shed for $10K. Are you flipping my flapjacks here? That's insane. $160,000 for a less than 300 square foot casita. Make me sick. So, but they really got it like that. They're selling everything. They're selling everything in sight. And so with mortgage rates near 7% and with home prices being insane, and these home builders are making almost pretty much record profits, you look at them, even with all that, they're still putting up these insane numbers. And they still, as of right now, once again, things could change 6 months from now, 12 months from now, 18 months from now. As of right now, in Las Vegas, they got it. They really got it like that. They can sell every home they freaking make right now. It's unbelievable. At some point, that's going to change, but for right now, it's still like that. I'm shocked, not just because mortgage rates are so high, but I feel like a lot of the Californians that wanted to make the move already made the move, 2020 through 2022, right? And so to see there still be that sort of demand, for me, it's just crazy. The only thing I could think is it's just, I got to think it's even more Californians coming over. That's all I can think. I'm just, the whole situation is crazy to me because you wouldn't think it would be like this. I mean, we had mortgage rates in the 3s and 4s for like 15 years pretty much, right? And then all of a sudden mortgage rates go into like double what they were. And then to still see this sort of demand with pricing. I mean, pricing's still near record highs. It might not be quite there, but it's not down that much. And yet, so then there was a rental property I was looking at. Also, this is in the past few weeks. So I was looking at this rental property, right? And these folks look pretty desperate to move this one. So I was interested in it, and I went into contract, and it's like, okay, that's gone. So demand is still there. So the moral of that story is, if you're thinking about the crash in the economy, like, is it here? Is it going to, at least in Vegas, it doesn't seem like it yet, right? Once again, year, 2 years, 3 years from now, it can completely change. But as of right now, still not here. You can't have, and think about it if you're the Fed, right? You're the Fed, you got the stock market near all-time highs. You have real estate. If anything, it looks like real estate's starting to come back to life more so, right? And if there's this sort of demand, pricing's going to go up. I told you about the Toll Brothers, $25,000. Give them 2 more weeks, they'll be up another $25,000, those homes, and another $25,000. You give it another few weeks. The Pulte pricing was insane. I can't even believe the pricing Pulte's getting out there. And so, I don't know, man. That's crazy. So you look at it as a bad thing or a good thing. If you're in the market for a home, you probably don't like that. But if you want to feel better about the economy, that can give you a little comfort. But once again, how's the Fed lower right now? With real estate doing this type of stuff? The Pultes, you know what they're doing at Pulte? They're making you compete against each other for the land. It's a blind auction. So if you want a piece of land, Pulte, you got to put in, if I recall, it was tens of thousands of dollars just as like a refundable kind of like reservation fee, like good faith type thing. Then they tell you, okay, it's going to be this X amount of price. So whatever it is, okay, $250,000. So you got to say not only you're willing to pay for that, but how much over are you willing to pay? So if you got 10 people competing with, you're like, crap, man, I better go over 30K, 50K, 100K, whatever. It's crazy. Crazy. And it's a blind auction, so you need to put in a high price if you really want that piece of land. So the moral of the story is housing is still there, at least in Vegas. Once again, I cannot speak for the rest of the country. I'm just telling you what I see, what I hear, what the reality is, at least here in Vegas. It's shocking, man. Absolutely shocking.